So guitar one is the melody, and the intro, you're basically slurring your way up to this F sharp here on the 14th fret, and ending on this C right here, the 13th fret of the B string. There's a couple of different ways that you can do this slur. You can do it with 4 fingers, or you can slide. I tend to just use the 3 fingers because it's consistent and I can do it every time. End up on the C, and then you rest for 2 measures. The melody part is like that. You start on this G, and then play this next G. That's the lowest and the highest note of the melody right at the beginning. It's a very call and response type of melody, which is similar to a lot of these Street Fighter songs. So there's the full thing. The second time through, it's pretty much the same, except instead of playing the G to the G, you play this sort of E flat. And then the second half is the exact same. All right, so the one note that is outside the octave of that G to the G is this very last note. It's a C on the 20th fret. And I slide because it sounds good. And then the second half, or the part 2 of the melody is much harder in my opinion. Tabs are on the screen, and this is the first hard, quote unquote, hard part. Right here. So I'm doing this sort of almost sweep motion on 3 strings, which you could do this like that as well. For me, it's just more natural to climb the strings rather than and then repeat the first part again. And then you have this cool little chromatic. This is my favorite part. So after you do this chromatic line, you do that exact same sort of sweep. But then you end up on this E flat here, and walk chromatically back up to the G. And guitar 2 is the harmony, and the intro is the exact same, but you're down an octave. This one, in my opinion, is harder than doing it on the E string. And then you're going into these triads, C minor to B flat. And then the second time, go down from that B flat to a G major. A G minor would make more sense, but I actually hear G major. And That's your intro part. The verse starts off the exact same way. But then the second time through, there's this walk down. Which is a C minor, B flat, A flat to G. So it's the exact same the exact same shape on all three of those chords. Repeat the whole thing. And then the very last chord is a C minor, which sounds good a couple of different places, but since the melody plays this really high C, I usually put it down here. So all right, and then part two is B flat. I play the whole chord, the whole bar. And that's just a B flat to G to C minor. And then the second time, you this A7 here is the another weird chord. I am on 7, 6, 8 of these 3 strings. And it's back to the intro. So I'll do that part. Da, 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 da. Like that. The bass is the hardest for me to hear, so I'm sure this is the furthest from the original track, but here's the way that I play it. Just like the guitars, you play the little intro lick from slurring your way up to this F sharp and ending on the C. And like the harmony, you have to get pretty much right into the groove. And that's the main groove. We're going from 6 and 5 on the A and D to 5 and 5. And then to end the phrase, you go from the 5th fret to the 3rd fret to the 3rd fret. So A, G, C, and repeat. The beginning of the verse is the exact same as that intro part. The second half is a little bit different, where we sort of assume this B flat shape. So I'll play that. And then instead of going back to the 6th fret, stay on the 5th fret. And play the 3rd fret on the next string. 6, 5, and then back to the C. I'll put that all together. And then the second time, bam, 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 end on the C. Bam, bam, bam. All right, and starts part two. Part two is these big triads. I'm going 7 or 6, 5, 8. This B flat to G. As a transition, I'm using this A flat. Ending on a C minor. And then repeat. The second time you do that same same sort of rhythm as the harmony. You're really following the harmony guitar here a lot. So part 2, all the way through, is repeat. Weird part. And then back to the intro.